You know, people are saying it goes down with one of the most incredible. It was so complex. 152 airplanes, many. Talk about boots on the ground. We had a lot of boots on the ground. But it was amazing. And think of it, nobody was killed. And on the other side, a lot of people were killed. Unfortunately, I say that, soldiers. Cubans, mostly Cubans, but many killed. They've been after this guy for years and years and years. And, he's a violent guy. He gets up there and he tries to imitate my dance a little bit. But he's a violent guy, and he's killed millions of people.
President Trump talking about the U.S. military mission that removed Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The president also announced that he will be meeting this week with U.S. oil executives as he seeks to exploit that country's petroleum reserves. We'll dig into all of that. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio seems to be trying to tamp down the rhetoric on taking over Greenland. We'll go through what he told lawmakers behind closed doors. And we'll attempt to sort through the latest troll from the Trump administration after it published a new website rewriting the history of the January 6th insurrection.
I mean, a lot of stuff going on here, of course, and we'll talk about all of that. We will say the one thing that everybody agrees on is what the president said there up top, that the military did an extraordinary job. Some people saying one of the more complicated missions they've seen the United States military accomplish in quite some time. And so everybody agrees on that. The lingering questions out there remain, what's next for Venezuela? And, well, actually, what's next for the hemisphere?
A lot of questions. Along with Joe, Willie, and me, we have the co-host of our 9 a.m. hour, staff writer at The Atlantic, Jonathan Lemire. Writer at large for the New York Times, Elizabeth Bumiller joins us. And CEO and co-founder of Axios, Jim Vandefy is here. It's good to have you all with us. So this morning on Capitol Hill, top administration officials will brief the full House and Senate on Venezuela. It comes as lawmakers from both parties are raising questions about what comes next after the capture of Venezuela's former leader and President Trump's repeated vow to run the South American country. Ahead of today's briefing, the president took to social media to announce that Venezuela will start turning over some of its oil production to the United States. According to the president, Venezuela will provide 30 to 50 million barrels of oil to the U.S. Trump says it will be sold at market price, and the proceeds will be controlled by himself to, quote, benefit the people of both countries. The transaction could be worth up to nearly $3 billion at current market prices.
Let me just say, though, as we continue, Willie, there's so many questions here. Yeah. First of all, will the oil companies get involved in it? That's number one. Number two, this is the president who's saying this. We haven't heard anything yet from Venezuelan people, so we're not sure if, in fact, this is the case, is whether they've agreed to do it, how they've agreed to do it. And finally, just as far as the market goes, if you start pumping a lot of Venezuelan oil onto the open market, which really hasn't been out there or has been on the black market, a lot of people in the oil industry are saying oil is going to go down to $50 a barrel, which is the biggest losing proposition. I mean, anybody that watches Landman knows. Once it goes below 60, baby, it's a crisis, and Billy Bob's got to start selling shit. So the oil down at 50. Well, I'm just trying, but I'm trying to dig deep here. Yeah. But the fact is, it would be glutting the international oil market right now and would cause a series of problems for oil companies in America.
And expect the president to hear exactly that on Friday. He's invited the heads of Exxon, ConocoPhillips, Chevron, all going to come to the White House to talk about this thing that's kind of been sprung upon them. You're going to get all this oil. You're going in. They may say, that's actually not great for the oil market if you do that, number one. And number two, we're not going to send thousands of our employees, thousands of our workers into a country that is that unstable, that dangerous, perhaps that violent. We're not going to put people at risk. So we will see Donald Trump saying 30 to 50 million barrels coming. And he said the revenue will be controlled by me. His quote.
Right.
when he posted. So
Okay.
a lot up in the air right now.
And Alex, be looking for that clip where Billy Bob says, when oil's at 120, I got Vince Gill singing from a birthday party. When he goes down to 60, we're selling things. But I want to ask you to follow up on it's Landman. I haven't started season 2 of
I haven't
you.
either. What a great
Jerry
show.
Jerry Jones cameo.
I'm telling you, though.
Great.
Really good.
I'm telling you, though, Jerry Jones, better actor than football owner. It's not even close. He is a great actor.
He was really good in that scene.
And that scene, you could see Billy Bob and John Hamm both staring, going, "Wait, what's going on here? Wait, is this
digress.
Olivier? Is this Texas, West Texas is Olivier?" So we've heard all of this talk about oil, and the president telling me we're going to keep the oil. And then we saw this post last night, 30, all the oil we're going to be getting from Venezuela. I'm curious, what did you learn yesterday from the White House about how they're going to do this, how they're going to cooperate with Venezuela, who's in charge of Venezuela, how long they'll be in charge of Venezuela? Are we hearing anything from Maduro's henchmen right now who are running the country? Are they going to cooperate and turn over all of this oil?
It's an open question right now. What happens next? First of all, there are reports out of Venezuela. There have been real crackdowns there. There's been some gang activity, as well as some loyal to Maduro trying to crack down on dissent in the streets. There's been reports of arrests. The New York Times has that this morning. In terms of the arrangement with the government, it remains to be seen. We have the opposition leader, Ms. Machado, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, basically giving an interview yesterday saying she would give up her peace prize to President Trump if it meant he would help her take charge of that country. There's no sense that that's going to happen just now. Marco Rubio will take sort of the lead on this. I know there's been some speculation that Stephen Miller's
The president said Stephen Miller laughed that off.
He did. Yeah.
Can you give us some behind-the-scenes info about that?
Well, there's a sense here that Rubio is going to, in name, be in charge. The question is, how much day-to-day can he actually do? This is a man with multiple jobs right now. He's become a meme that he gets another job every day while sitting on that couch. But he might be spread thin. Stephen Miller is one of the architects of the original operation, the drug boat strikes. So he will have, whether it's formalized or not, he'll certainly have a say there as well. And at the moment, the Venezuelan leader has shifted her tone and suggested she'll cooperate. But it's just words right now. It's too early to know how much actual buy-in and action there will be. But it's clear the United States is trying to dictate terms and say, you, the leader of this country, will do what we say, or we might look to other options.
We've heard for decades now from Colin Powell. we heard originally from Cap Weinberger. It was the Weinberger doctrine that got transferred into being the Powell doctrine. About how we avoid the next Vietnam, or how we avoid now the next Iraq. And everybody talks about before going in, what is the exit plan before you go in? Do you have the support of the American people? Right now, again, nobody is saying what the military did was not extraordinary. The question is, what is the exit plan? And we have absolutely no answer several days later.
Well, let's get to Jim Vandehei and Elizabeth Buemiller on this, and we'll look at the questions that National Review contributing editor Andrew McCarthy is asking in his new piece. What's the plan in Venezuela? He writes in part, quote, "We invaded a country that hadn't threatened us, bombed its defense capabilities, captured its de facto leader, and whisked him away to face adversarial trial in our judicial system. These are acts of war. That's how we would regard them if another nation even attempted to do it to us." What is the president's plan? It's not obvious that he has one. I don't see how you restore deterrence by taking apparent ownership by leaving in place the anti-American Marxist regime that was the supposed rationale for removing Maduro, while simultaneously encouraging China and Russia to believe they may be able to invade their neighbors with impunity. Elizabeth Buemiller, I'll let you try and wrap your head around that and come up with some answers. Any thoughts?
I have no answers. I don't think the Trump administration does either. I think what's incredible to me is those of us who remember Iraq, and I think everybody here does. You know, it's almost like the Trump administration is learned the opposite lessons from Iraq. You know, now debathification is considered a disaster. You know, because the U.S. basically got rid of the Iraqi civil service and the military and started it fresh, and that created years and years of chaos and bloodshed. And instead, the Trump administration has now done the opposite, which is to keep the corrupt regime in place and just, okay, we're now going to control it from a ship off the coast. We're going to control it from Marco Rubio's office. This defies any kind of reality. I just don't, and it's in a way there was never a real plan for Iraq. This is much more extreme. There's no plan at all. And I think, you know, Trump seems to be the one who's threatening with these tweets and threatening the leader. If you don't do this, it's going to be 10 times worse for you. Nobody could ever imagine this would have happened, even in the first term, and now here. So I have no answers for you how this is going to work.
Yeah.